Anthony Grassi for D2 Ticker here at the 2025 NCAA Convention. Happy to sit down for another small college conversation with the Commissioner of the MIAA, Mike Racy. Mike, thank you so much for joining me.
Great to be here. Thank you.
So I wanted to start here, big picture. I was going back through some old editions of D2 Ticker, and I had a quote from yours that said, "Your role is to stir things up."
Yeah, I think that may be not the best way to describe my intent or what motivates me, but I do think the experience that I've had in Division II athletics, different positions,
For sure.
Point of view of serving at the national office, being on a college campus, now being a commissioner. I understand Division II athletics. I believe in it very much, very passionate about it. And, I'm going to speak up when I think that we can improve things or do things better. So that probably is stirring it up a little bit, not being as political maybe as others want to be. I'm not in the structure. I'm not serving on any committees.
Right.
I'm not in any leadership positions, but I certainly know a lot about the division, how it works, what its values are, why it's important, and yeah, I'm going to speak out where I see something I'm concerned about.
So as we're here in Nashville, what is the focus for you? What are some of the meetings you're having here as you try to think about serving as a leader in Division II moving forward?
Well, certainly it starts with our conference. I think the MIAA is recognized as a leader in Division II as an organization. One of the original, I think, 6 or 7 founding conferences in Division II. The MIAA is an organization that dates back to 1912. Many of our members were original members in NCAA Division II. So we've had a lot of success as institutions, as a conference. So I think it starts at our conference meetings this afternoon and conversations about things that aren't just, what's right for the MIAA, but what makes Division II better, stronger as an organization. We've also had a couple of meetings. Last night was a great meeting. We have an organization that's about 2 years old now. It's called the Division II Football Alliance. And it was really the creation of a few Division II commissioners that have schools and football competing at a very high level, institutions that invest in football. It's more than just a sport for enrollment and to generate net tuition revenue. On our campuses, football is a sport that our institutions use for their brand, how they connect with alumni, what their connections and engagement is with their community, how they bring people to campus. Football's different on our campus and a few other Division II conferences. So the commissioners about 2 years ago got together and said we need a group that we can gather virtually or at meetings like this at the convention and get people together that usually aren't together. And what that means is a group that allows presidents, commissioners, and athletic directors to talk about football. And there's really nothing like that in Division II anyway. So we had a meeting last night. We had about 50 people in attendance. We had 5 presidents from 5 different leagues. I think we had about 8 conferences total represented. And we were talking, not just about kind of the current state of Division II football and, people upset that we still haven't expanded the bracket, that, some of the things that we were hoping as far as changes in the way we bracket, like Division III has done, we're not there yet. So some frustrations, but really I think the more enlightening conversation was about kind of the big picture and college football in general. And, are we organized the right way? Is based on what happens with the House settlement, are there going to be some schools and conferences at the lower FCS level that just are looking for something else to do with football, that want to have more of an educational model for that program as opposed to a revenue share business model? And if there is there a way to align some of those schools with some of the schools that were at our meeting last night and create a different model, either under the NCAA umbrella or outside of it? So we had some of those conversations, and I don't know that we have a blueprint or a strategy yet, but at least we have people around the table that are talking about things that aren't being talked about in the NCAA governance structure.
What is the ideal structure in your opinion?
I think the diversity that we see in Division I, we have that same issue in Division II. We have schools that have a very different reason why they offer the sport of football, and I think it's putting pressure points on our bracket and selections, and conversations about is this third place school better than this second place school or this conference champion, and I just think there's a better way for alignment, mission alignment, school alignment, athletic department alignment than what we have now. 15 years ago, I led a task force at the NCAA that was meeting with FCS commissioners and ultimately came back and made a proposal to subdivide Division II into a Division A and a Division AA for football. And it was not passed at the convention, obviously, but maybe that type of a concept was a little before its time, and something like that should be revisited. But my belief, Anthony, is that there are a number of FCS programs, especially in football, that have a lot more in common with Grand Valley and Northwest Missouri State and Ferris State and Angelo State than they do with Notre Dame and Georgia and even North Dakota State and South Dakota. And those schools, I think somebody needs to be thinking about what does football look like for those schools that still want to be part of March Madness. They still want to have a Division I membership, but football is different, and maybe there's a better place for them to be aligned with some of the schools that are now in Division II, thinking about a better model, a better system for its championship.
Have you thought about, and obviously you do your own media stuff, and it's been very insightful. I guess two parts. One, do you think there's a broader conversation, it seems like you do, of a broader realignment of all of the divisions, and maybe whether that's all sports or just football? And how are you thinking through the football piece specifically of making sure you have a proposal of here's what we think is the right way to go about it, as opposed to getting it into as opposed to the legislative process of getting it into the championships committee, going through that, getting financial approval, doing this and that. How much are you thinking about, we're gonna bring this forward as the D2 Football Alliance, say here's what we think we should do, yes or no, versus the meetings survey process? Yeah,
so I think that's what it's going to take, and that the days of survey, discussion, contemplation, another survey, here's our strategy, now let's go vote 2 years later. I'm sorry, it can't continue to work like that. We've got to, on some of these issues, critical issues, we've got to be proactive. We've got to make some decisions, and we can't continue to be reactive. And I think people are concerned that the NCAA, the governance structure, continues to be reactive. So it's going to take what you're talking about, the Football Alliance or the Night Commission or a task force that the NFL puts together and says, here's what we think the lower level of football needs to look like to help continue to develop officials, administrators, coaches, that come from the D2 FCS ranks to be part of. It's going to take something like that, and not just the traditional, hey, here's an idea, plug it into the committee structure somewhere and see what happens. To your question about, bigger than football, I think yes. I think there isn't anyone here in Nashville that if we were walking in with kind of a blank slate and we were told, okay, let's develop a national organization for college sports, we wouldn't walk out of this meeting. 1,100 schools wouldn't walk out of this meeting and say, okay, we've got 3 divisions and this is perfect. And 500 of them are going to be in Division 3. And we're going to have all of this broad mission, size, scope, diversity, in Divisions 1 and 2. We wouldn't do that. So there has to be a discussion, I think, about what does the future of college sports look like structurally and from a governance standpoint, and to continue to allow schools to see and describe to 8th graders or freshmen in high school, here's what the college model is going to look like for you, where you come to our school and we'll promise you an education. And I don't personally think those conversations are occurring. So one organization that I've actually started to work with is being facilitated by John LaCrone, former commissioner of the Horizon League. And John and his consulting firm, they put together a college advisory board. And that group is still getting started and still trying to figure out, what it looks like. But its real purpose is to bring representatives from FCS, Division II, Division III, and even the NAIA around the table to talk about the future of college sports committed to an educational model. What does that look like? And I think it's exciting to be part of those discussions. John is well connected throughout all of college sports, especially Division I, and he's had conversations with Amy Perko and the Knight Commission and other thought leaders about what this group is and what it wants to try to have conversations about and help elevate those conversations to a bigger audience. And there's support for that. I think everyone recognizes that the NCAA is kind of a little paralyzed right now with the litigation and waiting for the House settlement, and hard to get too far out in front on some of these issues. But someone needs to be having conversations about this is what college sports could look like. Division I schools, if you don't want to opt in, and here are some options of what you could do with football or maybe some other sports and continue to be a part of Division I basketball. What is that? No one's thinking about that, and we need people to. I'm just glad that I can be part of that group. We've got a good group of people, and the thing I mentioned at the NAIA is there, and Anthony, who knows what college sports looks like? It may not be an NCAA blue disc and an NAIA logo, both separately managing national governance, intercollegiate athletic issues. There may be one body, the National Collegiate Organization, that has authority over all four-year colleges and universities that offer intercollegiate athletics, and then how is that organized? So it's a challenging time to be in athletics, but also where I sit, near the end of a career in intercollegiate athletics, it's an exciting time to be involved in some of these conversations that may help shape what college sports looks like someday.
For sure. I'm curious what you would say to those that may push back. Football probably most specifically, but
yeah.
There are people that feel that where Division II may be going is creeping away from its values, the life and the balance mantra that has been kind of one key of the Division II membership. What would your response be to those that push back that say we're slowly creeping towards more of a Division I-esque style, maybe without all of the dollars and cents that come with it?
Well, so I helped create Life in the Balance. Mm-hmm. And Life in the Balance was never about being mediocre in more than one thing so you can balance your life. Life in the Balance was a destination to be excellent in everything you do, and to be able to have unique and talented students that could commit themselves to a degree, excel and achieve at their greatest potential in their athletic endeavors, and then to also be committed to involvement, engagement on campus or in the community. That's a balanced, full life, but it doesn't mean any of those take a step back. And I feel like on the competitive landscape, we're taking ourselves back. Division II has brought in a number of schools that used to be in the NAIA. When you used to leave the NAIA and move into Division II, It was about enhancing your athletic program, adding coaches, building new facilities, adding to your scholarship budget. And my personal opinion, seeing the difference of schools that are coming in now versus where they were 10 years ago, we've got schools now that aren't really trying to change anything. They're treating NCAA as NAIA version 2. And I think it's watering down the competitive nature of Division II athletics. It's hard to see. We still have great teams. Fair State's a great football team, and they won the national championship handily. A very talented team. We've got last year's MIAA conference champion basketball team that's 14-2 or whatever, playing now at Drake and carrying it through Division I. But I think when you look competitively, region to region, conference to conference, we're not as strong as we were a decade ago or 20 years ago from an athletic standpoint. And I think, the same way I said that, schools like Central Arkansas, North Alabama, go down the list, have more in common with Grand Valley and Ferris State and Pittsburgh State. I would say the same thing that they do with the big time D1 programs. I would say the same thing in Division II, that Northwest Missouri State and Central Oklahoma have more in common with those lower level FCS programs than they do some of the schools that are in Division II. And that's why I just say that, the divisions, I get it. I worked at the NCAA. Right. I have a lot of affinity for the good old days and how grand the three divisions were, how grand this great convention was. That was invented in 1973. It served us 50 great years. It's time for something else. We can do better. Even Indiana basketball at some point reached the conclusion that they needed more than just one champion, one classification. There was a better way to organize. And that's all I'm challenging. I don't have the answers. I don't know what it looks like, but I want people around the table having discussions about what we're doing now. Is there a better way to do it, a better way to organize it in football and in other sports?
Was that would you say that is the goal of what that kind of stirring the pot kind of?
Right. To bring people to a place where these conversations could take place.
Excellent.
That to me is stirring the pot. At least knowing what I know about NCAA and governance and how long it takes for things to get done. But yeah, stirring the pot sometimes is just making sure there's a group of people that can get in a room and ask the question, can we do better?
For sure. I want to get you out of here on these few MIAA specific topics. Membership, you guys have publicly stated you're going to be aggressive in growing the membership. That has been something your presidents have tasked you with. I'm curious what timeline your thinking is, and are we still at the 16, 18 number as a goal? Yeah,
I think 20. We've said 20 is kind of the cap. Okay. We wouldn't grow bigger than 20. We're at 14. Our presidents have said we don't like 14 and they don't want to go backwards. We don't want to go to 12. We don't want to go to 10. We want to grow. If you're trying to stay pat or say you're comfortable shrinking, that's not progressive. So we know we want to get bigger than 14. We don't really have a set timeline. Okay. If we can get 2 new schools that have football and do that in the next year or two, that would be great. That's the objective. I mentioned to you before we started filming that one of the individuals that was with us last night and working with our Football Alliance group is Jeff Schimmel, and he's with Collegiate Sports Consulting Group that does a lot of work at the Division I level. And that's really why we're working with them as well as a conference, and it's on these membership issues. And our presidents have asked Jeff, to keep an eye on what's going on in D1, and are there schools that are in our geographic area when things shake out that we can help them find a a way to land in the MIAA and be a good member of our conference.
Do you think that will come to fruition? D1 moving down to D2?
Under the current structure, no. But if we get people in a room that can think about maybe a different organization of the NCAA, then yes. An archaic rule is you can have two of your sports at the D1 level, except for football and basketball. Well, maybe we need to rethink that in football. Maybe there's a different championship of football that the NCAA helps create, and D1 and D2 members that want to be a part of that can do that without it impacting their other divisional affiliations. So we've got to have thoughts like that, and I think if we have thoughts and discussions like that, it could make it easier for a Division I president to say, hey, we're going to do this. We're not moving to Division II. This is a different model, a different solution, and it allows us and our fans to still be part of March Madness.
Yes.
I think there are a number of things we've talked about that kind of overlap.
For sure.
But I do think to your specific question, could that happen? It could, I think, with some creative organizational solutions in the NCAA.
Interesting. The last two things I want to get you out of here on are, you are in the middle of an RFP for your men's and women's basketball tournament.
Yes.
What does a successful partner look like?
I think what we've had in Kansas City, a community that comes out and supports us not only financially with sponsorship and business support, but fans that want to come and watch really good quality men's and women's basketball in March. And the reason we're in an RFP is we're at the end of a renewed 5-year contract. We've been in Kansas City for 22 years in historic municipal auditorium. When we put out an RFP, we've got other communities in our footprint that want the tournament as well. Our presidents are going to talk about that today, but whether we go back to Kansas City or not, what we have to have is a partner that's treated us like they've treated us in Kansas City for the last 20 plus years.
Interesting. And the last thing is, we'll talk kind of MIAA network. So this past year, you guys, net revenue was up 15%?
Right now, it's trending 15%.
Okay.
Yeah. So last year we were a little more than that, year over year. Yeah.
So I'm curious what the elements of success are for a successful Division II streaming network, and what maybe you're thinking of more broadly as revenue generation for a Division II conference.
Yeah. So we're in year 4 of 5 with a partnership with Huddle, and I think within the last year to 18 months, we've seen that partnership grow beyond just a media platform. Huddle has started to bring to the success of our network the power of their reach in the high school space, the 500,000 email addresses that they own, kind of a worldwide network of platforms that they can market and showcase our highlight packages or promote upcoming games. So that's been a real key, is having a media partner like Huddle that wants to do some of these things to help promote the MIAA and see our revenue grow. They have a vested interest. As our revenue grows, they do better as well.
For sure.
And then the other thing that we've tried is just some creative things. Like this year, we've developed a premium channel, and what we've found out is in some of these games that are pretty big time non-conference matchups, there's a market demand that allows us to price that at a little higher level than we have been in the past, and we haven't seen viewers fall off. We've seen them actually increase, and it's generated some additional revenue for our member institutions with those premium events. We've also backed those premium events out of our normal kind of shared distribution model, where everyone's kind of getting a cut of the pie on those premium events. If Pitt State is hosting Ferris State in football, and they're going to have 5,000 people tune in to watch the game and pay the MIAA network to watch a single game, all of that revenue is going to stay with Pitt State. And the reason that we did that is, some of these big-time matchups that we're starting to see now in football, there's a guarantee that has to be paid. So if Pitt State or Northwest or Washburn or whoever knows they've got some revenue from a premium event that's coming in, they can dip into that a little bit and use that to help offset that guarantee they're going to have to pay to get Grand Valley or Colorado Mines or whoever to come in and play it on the MIAA campus.
Excited.
Yeah.
Mike, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for providing the candor and the insights today.
Anytime. Great to see you.
You too.